Hi, I'm Barbara O'Brien. I'm an animal trainer and photographer, and I'd like to welcome you to The Empathetic Trainer. Okay, my guest today is Cara Gereau, founder of Equine Somatic Pathways, a licensed marriage and family therapist, author of I Love Your Heart and All Your Feeling Parts. I first came across Cara on Facebook, where she shared with some wonderfully thoughtful ideas about horses, people, and the nervous system. And the more I read, the more I wanted to have a conversation with her. Cara, welcome to The Empathetic Trainer.
I'm so happy to be here with you today talking about some of my favorite things. So thank you for having me.
Great. Well, I'm just going to get right into it.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Tell us your story. I mean, you weren't always doing this work. So
No.
how did you get here?
Oh gosh. Well, yes, I was on the corporate rat race path up through the East Coast and living in New York, and moved out to San Francisco and thought that was my life and sort of purpose. And I had this very solid protector part who was, just thriving in terms of success in the corporate world. But once I had children, there was a lot of travel involved in the work that I was doing in commercial real estate. And I was feeling more torn with that. And then as I became a mother and then was working through marriage, as one does, because parenting brings up all the stuff, between us. I started somatic therapy, and I'd had a lot of psychotherapy in the past of various forms, and it was like always fine, right? Like I got to like process some things, a lot of validation of like that you should be angry about that, or it makes sense that you're angry about that, right? Which again felt nice. But it didn't fundamentally shift things for me. And when we started doing couples work, this whole shift happened, and I really started to understand and see myself differently. And I also started to understand the ways in which I had been deeply numb and not feeling myself and my feelings and my needs in these massive ways. And so it was very beautifully disorganizing. And so I sort of hit a wall in the corporate world in terms of when I started feeling more, I couldn't sort of take the same things in the same way and be okay, right? And so, as you can imagine, it was quite a kind of crisis within myself of like, how do you give up this successful career? But it was this beautiful moment of, well, if I could do anything, what would I do, right? And at that time, in my 20s, that was the first time I had access in my life to horses. So I was learning a lot about horses and very obsessed with the equine work and diving deeply into the somatic work. And I knew that they were very connected for me, but I didn't know how yet. And so it was like, okay, I'm going to do this massive career change and go back and become a therapist. And I'm going to focus on somatics. And I know it has something to do with horses, but I don't know exactly what. So that was that impetus.
Sure, I can understand that. The first 2 minutes of our conversation, it's already resonating. Okay, because I'm older than you, I'm sure, but as a parent and been married almost 45. No, it is 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that this year. Anyway, I eloped so I could have a horse when I was 19. So, I've been married a long time. Still horses, still the husband, 4 kids, running the businesses. I
Wow.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And being a very wanting to provide and do everything and be everything to everybody.
Yes.
I was only allowing myself to have good feelings.
Yes.
No bad feelings. Never any bad feelings. And in the last year or two, I really learned about processing everything. So you can have a bad feeling, then you can say, I'm having a bad feeling, which ties directly into horses for me as well. And I've had them since I eloped to have that horse, right?
Right.
So let's talk about why horses. What do horses do with people? And please explain the word somatic,
Sure.
so that people understand.
Sure.
But, of all the ways that people can heal and learn about themselves, what is it about the horses that keeps drawing you back?
Yeah, yeah. So if we define somatic psychotherapy, um, traditionally when people think of psychotherapy, they think of talk therapy, right? Where you're sharing your thoughts and ideas, and there's meaning making, right? Of your past or your present. Somatic is of the body, so it's looking at how we are holding our structure, our body, and so. One way I like to explain this is if you're, sitting at a child's soccer game or something, and a ball comes kind of hurling at you, before you make up a story about like, oh, interesting that the ball is coming toward me right now, you just duck, right? And
Yeah.
you just react to it, and then after you make sense of it. And so that's happening on our body brain level all of the time. We're reacting and then making meaning of the reaction. And then interestingly, there are patterns around our reactions that we create stories around that are familiar. So it becomes this big loop, right, of meaning making and our felt sense, and what you were describing earlier in terms of what is safe to feel at all and let register, and what we're actually blocking, and we block by literally not allowing that quote bad feeling to come up. So for example, right, like you can imagine being around a very young child, like 2 or 3 years old, who, a friend steals their cookie or something
Mhm.
like that happens that's like clearly enraging or upsetting, right?
Yeah.
And on that small child, you can see how the anger and emotion rises up through their chest, right? Like into their face and neck, and their face, their face might get red. And then this like surge of energy comes out of them. So we can witness that, but that's also the same thing that happens in us all of the time. And so that we learn when we're young, if we are in a family system where, for example, anger is not tolerated from us, it's not safe, we get a big reaction, or we get ignored or punished for that.
Hmm.
As a young child, we will learn that that's not worth the sacrifice of connection, and so we'll choose to not express that anger. So for that 3-year-old, it might look like that feeling still comes up, but then they tense their chest and they close their throat so they don't say the thing, right? And then that happens, hundreds and then thousands of times. And your body, just like driving the car, is unconsciously like, oh, this happens. You just clench your chest and you close your throat. And, and then suddenly you're an adult where when you're talking about anger, you're like, I don't get angry. I don't, so
Lots
that,
of women, that's for sure.
uh-huh. Right. And so that's the somatic of there are a lot of people, when they think of somatic therapy, think of somatic experiencing, and that's one modality in a vast array of modality within.
And modality, just for those, and remind myself, modality
Yes, modality
means
would be kind of your method, your
method.
mode, if you will, of the way you're working with something that's coming up. So, back to your question of why horses,
Yes.
there, um, when we think about our patterns of movement and embodiment, and we think about and by embodiment, what I mean is like the way we move within our body, the way we use our body, and we think about our earliest relationships. They were pre-verbal, right? So our earliest attachment relationships, we had this yielding into our caregiver first before we had any movement or coordination.
Mhm.
And then we learned to push up and away and like look around the world, and then to grasp and to reach and to pull and release. And so those look one way when we were an infant, and then we became our chaotic toddlers, and those looked a really different way.
Mhm.
But again, within our family holding, some of those would be very loud, and we could make a big mess, or we could throw the peas on the ground off of our high chair, and that was fine. And in other families, that was really not okay. And so within these nonverbal relational movements, each of us has a different felt sense of safety, what is okay to embody and what is not. And for horse people, this might be really familiar, where you yourself, or maybe you have witnessed others, for example, ask a horse to back up,
Hmm.
move back, while they simultaneously backed away from the horse themselves, for example,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's an example of there's this somatic dialogue happening in that's nonverbal, but happening at this level that is being expressed. And so I think all animals can be therapeutic and wonderfully connecting and grounding, but horses are master readers of this dialogue relationally, right? They are so connected to the micro um, movements, to the smell, to the shifts, right? Like within our body and reading. And so they're picking up on all of this relational dynamic that's happening with us and responding to it in very real time. And so there's this truth of relationship that is happening. And so for me, when my deep interest is in the how are we really slowing down and reading this, what's happening in this relationship with no ask at all
Hmm.
initially, but just that what is the truth, because that is going to bring up all of our history and all of our things for us to look at and come forward in a much different way with the horse.
Oh, for sure. I, I'm I'm so interested in what you're saying. I'm processing it as we talk.
Yeah, totally. It's a
So,
lot.
yeah, but no, it's really true, and we see that, and I've had that in my own experience. Like back up, please, and then or please move forward, and then I'm backing away instead of like
Exactly.
let's walk with me. Some body language thing, and
Exactly.
well, I've spent my life watching animals. I mean, because I train animal actors for film and television, print ads, things like that, and I've done that for a long time. So I've been watching animals and learning to read, what does this dog feeling? What is this cat feeling? And they
Mhm.
can't perform if they're not happy. So then we do everything to make them happy, or we don't ask them to do it. It's just that simple.
Mhm.
Because why
Beautiful.
would you do that? So, um, but you've spent years watching people and horses together, and I have not paid as much attention to that.
Mm.
What are you seeing that most people miss? And I think you spoke about it a little bit, but what are you seeing that most people miss when it comes to people and horses, either in a session where you're working with them or just casually when you're observing people and horses? What did you notice?
Sure. Yes. I think the first thing is, well, we're humans are so drawn to horses, right? We're just like it's like this magnet relationally, and then of course, if someone chooses to come to equine facilitated work, they're going to be drawn to the horse, and so there's this immediate longing, and it. For in watching humans, and then outside of psychotherapy as well, if just at the barn where I keep my mares and do my work, right, people come and visit the horses, and they want to come and like put this energy forth. They want to touch, they want to, right. And uh what strikes me again and again is how utterly unaware the response of the horse is in landing with the person who's doing the touching, and then further how some of this, like what seemed to me very clear signals of I don't like this, I'm unsure, I'm turning my head away, or I'm backing up. It again doesn't land as discomfort or disconnect or a no for the person, and the horse has to scream in their language a no by either pushing into or pulling away for that message to land. And then there's this sort of hurt, or that longing is not met, right? There's like a mini rupture for the person who was totally unaware that maybe 3 minutes of an argument just happened.
No, I agree. We have visitors who come, and the horses love to come up to the fence because they'll get fed some yummy grass, and they're Morgan horses, so they're super friendly.
Yeah.
And if I don't get up there fast enough, like I'm walking with them, there's a group, whatever, inevitably the horses will come up, and then somebody wants to touch those beautiful soft muzzles. They just want to, because look at a horse's muzzle, how
So
tactile that
beautiful.
looks, and you want to touch it so bad. But I have to say, hold, wait. I said we always like put our hand down low and let them smell us first, and ask permission, just like we'd ask a dog or certainly not going to run up to a human being and grab their nose. So, that comes much later in a relationship, if at all. And so
Right.
here's how we do it, and they're not even aware, because everybody, if they're not afraid, wants to touch that beautiful muzzle. And
Right.
my horses are great about it. But obviously, if someone did, they're going to turn their head. They're going to lean back. They're going to say, wait a minute, you're supposed to give me some grass. You're supposed to say, you haven't even bought me dinner yet.
Right.
They're supposed to.
Right.
So I educate people when they're visiting, because they're not coming to like ride horses or anything. They're just like visiting the farm for some reason, But horse people, even ones that are really, really familiar with horses, move so quickly, and I am guilty of this. Move
Yes.
so quickly that I've
Yes.
already moved past what I'm asking him. Like I've already thought it, like gone already, and it's like, and my husband, he's so sweet, because he goes out and he doesn't ride, doesn't do that. He just loves them, helps me. He'll go up to them and he'll be in the group and he'll be like, "Excuse me, oh, could you move over just a little bit, please? I just need to get in here." And he's so calm and so quiet. He touches them so gently, and it's never like, "Hup, get up, hup, move," whatever. And I've learned by watching him and learning more that I don't need to be this big energy. These are only little Morgans, and they're not any intention to hurt me on purpose.
Right.
So
Right.
I didn't give him the same benefit that I gave a dog or any other animal I was working with. It was more like, I had to learn to be more aware.
Yes.
Even after all these years, I've had to learn to be
Totally.
more and to slow down.
Yes,
So,
it's such a big hard thing, right? That it's a vulnerable thing, actually, like when we're so capable, because I think a lot of horse people are so capable, and strong, and you have to be clear in all of these ways, but the slowing and the waiting and the being curious kind of blocks some of that numbing capacity, right? Makes us uncomfortable, or we feel like we're wasting time, or we're not getting the thing done that we should have gotten, whatever version of that is. But I think that's the other piece to your question of the other witnessing that's really powerful, is beyond the introduction in the because there's all these sayings in the horse world, right? Of like, leave your feelings at the gate, or
Right,
like
yeah.
all of these things. That it's not actually that you don't need, that you shouldn't be feeling, or whatever it is that you're feeling. It's the moment of, once we get past the person's longing to actually touch the horse and wait for permission. When the horse is not giving permission, it's what I've witnessed every time universally, this magic moment of that when the person just gets clear about what they're feeling. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be big grief or anger or tension, or, I had a hard drive over here, whatever it is. When they are just actually in that feeling, though they've been trying to get the horse's attention and they're moving around the paddock waiting for an eye or an ear to signal, and the horse is actively ignoring, but then they're just feeling what they're feeling, just acknowledging it and being in it. Every time the horse just goes like this magnet and
Yes.
comes over to
Yes.
them.
Oh, it's true, and it's true with cats too.
Oh, interesting that's true with
it's
cats.
very, very true with cats, because you're exactly right. And I've seen it and witnessed it, and we call it, horses just want us to be congruent. They want us to be the same on the inside as the outside.
Yeah.
And so but cats are the same. That's why when someone doesn't care for cats or doesn't want a cat near them, and they give off this whole, "I don't want you near me, I don't want you near me," the cats find that fascinating, because the person is telling them something. Not like, "Come here, kitty, I'm going to grab you, I want to squeeze you," It's more like, "Don't come near me." And then they're like, "Wow, you're not trying to pursue me or force me or do anything to me. Therefore, you are really interesting. And
How
I have
funny.
I have to come over and see you."
Right.
You can win over people that way with nice cats. But your story about like, leave your fear, or they say, like, if you leave your fear at the door, leave your stuff at the
Right.
door, whatever, leave it at the gate. My grandson just started riding because we finally built an indoor arena and finally got a suitable horse that, is safe for kids. And he's like 11 or 12. So he has not only ridden maybe 3 or 4 times, at this point, little pony ride, lead him around. This time now that we have the safe arena, the safe horse, everything's right. I'm having, you can just ride her now. Just ask her, squeeze and making noise and ask her to go. And he rides a few steps and like the awe that, because he's already like brushed her and talked to her. So they have a relationship. And then he comes back around, he comes to me and he leans over quietly and he goes, well, I'm a little bit scared. But I told her that. And she's being really good. And I'm telling her what a good horse she is. And then he scratches her neck and he says, oh, you're such a good horse, April. And you can feel the horse go like, I'm going to take care of you. I'm with you. And I loved that he's being raised in this animal-centric, I'm thinking of their feelings because a lot of kids, I just want to get on a run. I mean, once they learn how, I just want to get on. I was guilty of that,
Sure.
How many times can we jump over this jump, poor pony, if you think about it,
Sure.
But I think if children are given clues on how to be,
Yes.
if they learn that young, then it becomes a habit because horse people we recognize each other. Just the way we carry ourselves, especially the women, and you're kind of like, hey, do you ride? Like, yeah, I ride. How'd you know? Well, your boots but that feeling, because it feels like nobody pushes us around and we give off this we have kind of a wall and we got 1,000-pound animal under our control.
Right.
But deep down, man, when I got hurt and I got better, it took me a while to decide to get, feel confident again because this wasn't that long ago. It was this age. When you're a kid and get hurt, you're like, oh, but when you're in your, with early 60, I suppose, then it was like, wow, I broke my pelvis in 3 spots and now I'm a little anxious about getting on a horse again,
Yeah.
And I told her so. I mean, I'm riding a different horse, but I told her so,
Yeah.
And then she was like so forgiving. So,
yes.
And so horses, if you talk to them and you are the same inside and the same out, that's what you're telling us.
Yes. And I think the tricky part, that sounds so simple, right? And in some ways it is like what you're describing. And it's so, I think it's simpler and clearer, like with your beautiful grandson who has that access to the fear. He's not embarrassed. He's not in shame about it. He can share it and he can be in the, he could feel that arousal without it sending him over, right? And so then the dynamic is it's not overwhelming. He's not compensating by clenching down on the horse or right. There's this whole dynamic positive loop happening between them.
I think so, yeah.
I think where it gets more complicated and common for we adults who have pushed away all of these feelings and parts of ourselves for so long is that we often actually are not even aware that we are feeling the thing that we're feeling, right? Where we might just be in anger and we think or blame or reactivity, and we're just in that and utterly unaware that there's a well of grief underneath it. And that's the thing we actually need to be feeling so it can pass through. And I think that's the part of there's this surface level of I'm aware I'm frustrated right now because the horse is not responding to me, right? But then the dropping below of okay, well, that's usually when we're aware of the feeling, we're merged with in parts work language, we call it a protector part. So we can think of protectors as, in adolescence, at some point, there were certain ways we weren't being met in our family system or within our peers. And we developed, I like to call them the super skills, right? These super skills, and horsewomen have them in particular, right? That carry us through life, and they might make us great at business or great at riding or really in control or, these parts. But there's always a shadow there, meaning we got really great usually at those things because feeling that we have needs, feeling that we're not capable, feeling that we actually need someone else to attune to us was not something that was tolerable. It was so painful to feel that part of us got sort of exiled and pushed out into the woods and told your job is to just stay out there and be quiet. And this superhero version is coming in like hot, right? And taking over. And that works really, really well until inevitably there's some moment that part hits a wall, right? For us. And then we hit that wall, and then we're triggered by that feeling that we don't want to feel. That's the part that's out in the woods of like abandonment, or I'm alone, or nobody really cares or shows up when I need something, or like, those versions of what the self-reliant person doesn't allow in vulnerability. But so when we feel that vulnerability, we're not just feeling the vulnerability of the moment, we're feeling the cascade of the decades that we didn't feel. And so it's so big. And so we work really, really hard not to feel it. And so I think this is the challenge in the work in, if we're really looking at relational work with horses, is it's not just the like, can I feel what I'm feeling in this moment? It's like, can I be curious about all the parts of me? Because if I'm feeling a tinge of this protector, there's something beneath it that I need to be curious about. And do I have the resource here and now to actually feel that vulnerability? I didn't probably when I was 13 in the family system I was in, but now I've got all this resource, right? And so can I, if I can be with all of that and live in curiosity, then I actually get to invite more joy back too, because I get more feeling all around.
Oh, wow. Man, will you just come hang out? Because
totally. I'd love to hang with your Morgans.
Oh, it just makes so much sense. We're going to have to talk about this. Maybe you do clinics or something, because I want everyone to like hear this and understand and learn it, because you're talking about every horsewoman everywhere, I think, honestly, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep talking about myself because this is you, but what you just said, like when I got one of the two little mares from Montana, and she was just a yearling, and I brought her home, and this was after I'd gotten badly hurt on this other mare that is in a different home now. She's just a brood mare and not being ridden. I think when I got terribly bucked off and broke my pelvis, I think it was a pain issue that I couldn't see. So I'm smarter now. It's never the horse's fault as far as I'm concerned. Sure. Anyway, they brought the yearling home. It was the first purpose-bought horse I bought, because I always had rescues. I always had, whatever. So it was purposely, I got her, she's 6 now. So purposely bought her and her another, whatever, brought her home. And I'm just, after she adapted, I'm just walking her around the yard, and she was so uncomplicated. And I tell you, the grief just came, the grief and relief. Like, I couldn't believe, why am I crying? Why am I crying? Because I'm so happy because you're so uncomplicated, because you're not a rescue. Nothing wrong with rescues, but I did it for 20 years.
Sure.
It's like, you're so uncomplicated. You're a clean slate. You're a yearling. You've been raised okay. You're just happy to be with me. And she's still like that. But I couldn't understand at the time, because this would be like 5 years ago before I even started all this.
Yeah.
Why is this hitting me like a wave? Why am I crying? Why?
Wow.
What you said about unresolved grief. No, I was at home. Nobody's going to mock me. I can cry. My husband's wonderful. I'm 45 years. He puts up with everything. So I had support. I told him about it. Look at this. I was so happy and sad at the same time. Yeah. So what you're saying really is hitting home, and I think it hits home for a lot of people. And I can see now how horses, whether you've been around them or not, just in general, how they can help you open that door to unprocessed feelings, which can cause you, physical and mental harm down the road. We've seen it.
Yes.
And that brings me to my next question. It ties right into it. One of the reasons I reached out to you was a post you wrote about a recent neuroscience paper, and it was about trauma. So the idea that trauma may have more to do with prediction than memory stored in the body. Yeah. Now, we took in different girls that had all the adverse childhood experiences, like check off all 10. It was, and one lived with us for like 4 years, and happy to say she's an adult with her own children now and part of our family, and that's all great. But the other one still struggling, and it's just sad and hard. But I had to learn a lot about trauma quickly.
Yes.
And I'm still learning that, but how the body holds it.
Yes.
What you were saying earlier just ties right into it. So the first thing we did when the girl both of them, but the first thing we did, and they weren't at the same time, they were years apart, but the more recent one, is I got her a dog. Like right away, you need something to love that's your own
Yeah.
And, so you have a reason to get up in the morning and a reason to do things. And she
Yeah.
was a gifted animal trainer. So she had a great time socialize. And it was during COVID. So she managed to socialize this puppy because she was naughty and would run off and be around people. So, but she socialized him. I mean, I have the dog still. He's our dog now because
Oh,
her life changed and it wasn't safe for the dog to be with her. I'm hoping, still praying that healing comes and she can
yes.
get her life together. And that's where I had to learn about boundaries. So a whole nother story.
So
But anyway,
complicated. It is.
so
It's not, yeah.
complicated. But we still love her, and she trained this dog and gave us this, thing. But the best thing we did for her is give her something all of her own to love that she had to be responsible for, and she could be
Yes.
herself around.
Yes, and that
That's what
didn't
I'm trying to
have
say.
you can tell me if this resonates, but I feel like when there's a complex trauma history, connection itself is a threat, right? Because there's been such pain usually in connection. And so closeness and contact itself is so when we think of prediction error, that actually feeling vulnerable in contact and connection is going to bring up the memory of pain,
Yeah.
right? And so there's an unconscious, so that animals but usually become this place of safety because there isn't that history of threat like there is with a human
Right.
connection. So how beautiful that she had that contact and softness, right, from an animal that was probably hard to take in from anyone else.
Yeah, she was great with him, and same thing with all the animals, but horses. And the other when the other girl came, she picked out a kitten that a neighbor had, and so she had that kitten for the rest of its life. I mean, in the time has
Oh,
passed, and both of them connected with the horses,
yeah.
immediately. And so
Yeah.
I know that they can be very healing. I'm just not trained in it. It was, but you can see it happen right in front of you. So
Absolutely.
the predictive the what was that paper about? Because I'm trying
Yes.
to.
Yes. So Bessel van de Kolk
Oh yes, I'm familiar
wrote
with
a
the name.
book, yes, that sort of became very popular and shifted, brought somatic psychotherapy to the forefront. And his book was The Body Keeps the Score.
Body keeps
Uh,
the score. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that became. I mean, it's an interesting thing. Some people found it massively healing. Some people found it massively triggering.
Yeah.
And so there's the whole gamut. But regardless, he brought forth and popularized a lot of ideas about somatic psychotherapy, and namely that the body is an important factor, right, in how we're responding.
Mm-hmm.
To trauma, to life in relationships and otherwise. And so this paper was a bit controversial because it challenged the idea that the body kept the score, and it was arguing that in fact it's the brain is the predictive error and the body is responding to that. So essentially, when we have trauma, there's in common language, it's like messing up our ability to scan for threat, right? It's
Yeah.
amplifying threat, right? Especially if it's threat around something related to trauma, like relationship, or you can think of like a war veteran who like hears the loud noise sort of
Yeah.
thing. That brain is going to predict that car backfiring is a weapon of some sort, and there's going to be a
Yeah.
whole loop and reaction to it. And so I think what was interesting is that the paper was getting at is that trauma is not stored in the flesh, and that it's the predictive error in the brain that changes things. And there's since been some back and forth and criticism, and where I land and where the criticism I think is also landing is that they're interlinked. It's a dynamic system, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
yes, your brain might be processing the predictive error, but that's going to then influence systems in your body that then are going to send messages to your brain
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
so
No.
on.
She had psychosomatic seizures. I mean, it
Yeah,
was that severe,
so
and
severe.
that is definitely your body going, wow, something is overwhelming me,
Absolutely.
And she wasn't in
Exactly.
imminent danger at all, but how could she know? How could her brain feel safe, So I did notice that she was so much better when she was with animals. I think that
Yes.
they were just a way of an anchor, something loves
Yes.
me. I'm not threatened here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
Yes. And then I thought so people got very fired up about the critique of the body keeps the score, but I actually thought the most interesting part of the paper wasn't like what's right, is it the chicken or
mhm.
the egg, the brain or the body first, but it got into flow states as a resource and a state that shifts our neuroception or that predictive threat state, right? And so
Yep.
what they were talking about, and there's more research that needs to be done in this, but what they were signaling is that the early research shows that when you're in a flow state, and so when there's heightened awareness of some sort, and that can be because you're hiking or you're riding a horse or you're right, like how you're
Mhm.
describing your grandson, where there's this heightened like, oh, I'm like fairly aroused right now. I'm on a horse. It's a
Mhm.
little scary, but there's enough safety, right, that you feel okay, that this is actively rewiring trauma
Ah,
patterns where we might be stuck,
and
right?
that's where horses can help people. I get it.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And so to me, that's so exciting because not only is it just absolutely like being with and grooming a horse, right? You can get into a flow state or walking with a horse or riding a horse and walking around. Those are all beautiful accesses to potential flow state, which is in and of itself regulating and healing. But beyond that, when we are in community with horses and there's another person in relationship, if we are a person where relationship has been a threat in the
Mhm.
past, so we have a
Mhm.
predictive error around contact or being witnessed or being vulnerable, but we are in community with a horse and then there is vulnerability, and there's a whole embodied dialogue that we're witnessing take place and a human helping us to connect, and make contact in that. It's an inroad to a really complicated place for a lot of humans around healing trauma, relational trauma.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really thrilling and exciting research.
Yeah. And I think horses have been doing it. We just haven't been labeling it. You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one phrase that caught my attention was safe uncertainty. Is this sort of what you're talking about, or is this not
Yes.
connected?
Yes. Safe uncertainty. Yes. So that instead of it being that, um, I need to either avoid this situation or know how it's going to go. So when we think of anxiety in and of itself, worry wants certainty all the time, right? And so we either avoid or control. And then when we think about trauma, the we can't tolerate uncertainty. It's there is no safety in uncertainty. But these flow states, and then in particular in being around horses, there's a constant uncertainty with this 1-ton being,
Hmm.
but it can be very safe, right? And sweet, and there can be depth and magic and play and joy in it, and then we want more of it. So we're building our capacity more and more for safe uncertainty.
Oh, that's very true because like first thing my grandson does when he talks to me is when can I ride again?
Oh,
So that's that safe uncertainty. Like it was a little scary,
yes,
but as he gets more confidence and, it's less scary because he had a positive experience.
yeah,
I think adults, it's harder for them to get to that point where they can feel the safe uncertainty you're talking about because we want to
yeah,
jump to the worst case scenario.
yes,
This will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this, or what if
yep.
this or what if, and it's, yeah. So, man, sometimes don't you want to be just 12, at least in a good way?
Absolutely. Well, and what I want is like, since I can't, it's like I want my 12-year-old self to come riding with
Yeah.
me, or I want to tap into like the complications or the feelings, especially right, like being a 12-year-old girl is like I have a 12-year-old right now.
Mhm.
It's a very complicated time, right, for us. And so um, thinking back to all the ways in that adolescence we weren't invited to just be who we were or feel how we were, and that we still feel all of that part of us does. And that we, the adult, get to be like, yes, of course, like, of course you feel that way. Or of course, you want to like be alone on the trail, or of course, whatever, but like how to embrace that 12-year-old self and the joy part of it, of like, we just get to be with the horse or lay on the horse's back and read a book
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that quiet time. I'm lucky I live with my horses. I'm pretty blessed that way.
Yay.
I,
Yeah.
I can't see them back there, but they're back there. There's 6 of them.
Oh, that's magical.
Yeah, and we'd like to share them in the ways we can. But I mean, they're just, well,
Yes.
all the animals.
Yes.
Okay, you talked about witnessing. Why is simply being seen and understood sometimes so powerful?
Mm.
Can a horse witness someone in a way that's different from another person? Can a horse witness you differently?
Yes, they can, because it's, well, I think it's a couple of levels. I think the witnessing is different, firstly, because there's a truth to it, to their response, right? There isn't any obligation. They're not placating or performing for us unless they're shut down and in freeze, but the horses I'm working with are not. So they're not performing, but let's see, I'll describe this moment because maybe it gives a picture of it, but it's often with, well, I'll ask you, Barbara, have you ever had a horse take you for a walk? Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, yeah, I think that's how we get them feeling regulated and safe in their environment, is to let them explore. So we go with, and we even do that in the pasture without being on a halter. We just match steps, as it were, just to see where they're going. And when I had a very anxious mare, it helped her a lot for me to go like, I'm just going to walk with you. And I wasn't next to her. I'm just over like 7-8 feet. I'm just going to stay with you. And I mean, you just, over a matter of short period of time, she just totally, was like, oh, okay, we're congruent. We're on the same page.
Yes, there's a harmony, right? And
Yeah.
and there's that moment. And yes, I agree. It can either be like you're joining with the horse, and then there's this co-regulation happening, right? Where they come down, or in the witnessing, I've seen also the vice versa, right? Where I have a mare who's in particular very skilled at taking clients for a walk, and so they'll kind of be in harmony, and then she does this thing where she's got, like all horses, there are patterns to the way she non-verbally communicates. So she drops her head slowly, and then she looks over at them, and then she takes a very slow step and invites them to wherever it is she wants to go, right? And I'm the translator there, and then they're joining and going on this walk, and she'll take 5 steps and she pauses, and it's kind of like she's saying like, are you keeping up? Are you, and then she has these moments of stillness where they're, where I encourage it as their job to just keep regulating and being with, like, how do you keep deepening the harmony? How do you keep joining with this being, right?
They must be thrilled when the horse is appearing to them and is inviting them in. They must be thrilled.
Oh, it is. They weep, right? It's like clients weep in those. It's so beautiful. I mean, I want to weep when I'm in those moments. There's this heart, I don't think we often get that level of nonverbal harmony with another being, maybe infants, right? Like when we hold them, or we're emerging, or small animals. There's the flavor of that for me, but there's this, it's this mutual witnessing, right? Where we are in harmony together, and you're invited into my herd. And when the clients if they weep or they're having an experience there's no judgment or change within the horse, because there is really deep congruence there. It's just kind of more inviting in and more softness. And sometimes the horse yields into the client, and I invite the client to yield into the horse, right? And so that's just one example of the witnessing of really just being seen and invited into harmony, because I'm asking you to join me with no expectations or pressure. It's just like your existence here with me feels good. and I want to be in harmony with you. It's a wild thing that I don't think we get in many places.
No, no. Yeah, I understand it and have probably experienced it. So I know what you mean. And it is fun to watch children when we teach them. We do this with sheep. It's similar, I guess, if you how to explain it. But we do it with sheep because sheep are a prey animal and they're not going to come up to strangers. They're just not, even tame ones, because they don't know the threat level. I mean, they spend a lot of time worrying about what can harm them, right? Now, I have like 6, 7 sheep and they're very tame. And when children visit, I say to them, okay, you guys want to see the sheep? And they're like all excited, and these are little kids too. And they're all excited. And I say, okay, but we need to do a few things first before we even go near their pen. First, we're going to breathe. We're going to slow down.
Beautiful.
We're going to breathe. We're going to practice just being very still because sheep are afraid of just about everything. And if they don't know that you're okay, they're going to want to run away. So if you want these sheep to come to you, we need to do that. So they're always like, okay, we'll be quiet. I say, okay, now we're going to walk in here quietly and we're going to sit down on the edge of right by the barn here, and the sheep are free to come and go. But if we're still, and I lower my voice, I slow down.
Beautiful.
If we're still and we're quiet, and I'll have like 5 or 6 little ones, and I just love this. If we're still and we're quiet, and we just think like, I'm happy to be here, and I want to talk to you guys, but I'm not going to scare you. Like you can hear them whispering it to themselves, like, okay, I'm not going to scare you. I just want to talk to you.
So beautiful.
Because they're not afraid of like looking silly, they're just being kids. And that always, every time, first one, Beatrice, is the most favorite, tamest. She's like, oh, little children. I like little children. And she comes up and I'll say, okay, don't reach for her. Let her come to you. And she'll just come right into their space and she'll say, and I'll say, oh, she likes to be scratched under her chin. Don't reach for her head. Scratch under. She likes to be scratched behind her elbows because they can't reach there, underneath like their chest. And then the other ones go, well, if Beatrice is getting scratched, we want to get scratched. So then they'll come around. And the children are so pleased with themselves that they could regulate their emotions, be true. If somebody's pretending to be something, the sheep won't come, that's where they know the difference between the sheep shearer, who's certainly a nice guy,
right,
and little children, and so I love that. It's like their first introduction to like animals can approach you because dogs love everybody and they'll come to you. Cats will come to you, but to have a farm animal want to be around you, especially a prey animal, it's so much fun. And it's the same principle with horses.
Same.
They will.
And what I think is so interesting that you are doing with these children, I think it's so powerful. And I've seen children do this with horses as well. It's like the empowerment that they feel that they felt their own body and nervous system shift and that the animal responded to that. Like they created that interaction by shifting their own body. And you were modeling it with your prosody of voice and your tone, and you're slowing your body down, right? And the softness there. And then they integrated it and felt it. And then how that becomes a living skill, right? With all of their relationships and self in reaction is so good.
If there's time, children that have a few more challenges, maybe on the autism scale or something like that, they're capable of it too.
Absolutely.
If you have the time to model it and let them come to it, and then they feel so good because they're able to do it.
Yes.
And instead of feeling like I'm letting someone down or something, we have this expression, love the dog in front of you, and so of course we need to love the child in front of us and not what. There's also an expression we use called state, not story. What is the current state, this moment, this second of this child, this horse, this dog, yourself? Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to hear the backstory. Yes, you have a backstory. I get it. You've been through this. You've been through that. I just want to know your state right now. And that's where we need to live at this moment. And kids are great at that, but we lose that as adults. Yeah. And so I love it because every child that does that experiment succeeds on some level.
Yes.
My sheep are phenomenally sweet, but also kids want to do it. Yeah. They want to do it.
They do.
And so the people that are coming to you are motivated to want to do it, to be with animals in that way. So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay. Horses as teachers. What if horses taught you about people, and what if people taught you about horses?
Yeah. What if horses taught me about people? How I think just limited our awareness and body-led intelligence is. How we're just little infants in that regard. Yeah, I feel like that's what horses have taught me about people. And the second half was, what have people taught me about horses?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of some of the greatest lessons there. I think you spoke to it earlier. I think it's that theme of the slow down, we have to slow down. There's such a beauty and shift in appreciating essence and awe, and like the way that like witnessing a horse smelling the dirt and actually like feeling the awe of like the information that they are gathering and sharing, right? That there is this beautiful transmission of wisdom and knowledge and kind of the indigenous world that we've lost completely, right? From the horses just live that and embody it all of the time. And so that, I think that appreciation for the depth that they can teach us and communicate to us if we actually slow down, right? Is so beautiful.
And be truthful. I guess I'd agree with what you've been saying all along, like it's same inside and out. And that's hard as adults because we hide a lot.
We do. But I think it gets easier and easier. I think the hardest part is the leap into like the feeling a little bit of it, because it feels like we're going to fall apart and it's so disorganizing, really. But then as we get more and more practiced at it, it's just sort of like, oh, yep, doing that again, blocking that again, moving too fast again, or whatever it is that keeps us from feeling, right? Or scrolling my phone again, whatever version of.
Yeah, it's amazing that if you're willing to do the work, how much relief you can get and how you can grow.
Yes.
And horses are certainly for me, the cheapest therapy I've ever had.
There you go.
In the long run. I'm really appreciative of what you're saying. Okay, for someone who's listening and who has experienced trauma or loves someone who has, serious trauma. We've all had traumas naturally, but trauma that's affecting their life that is making it hard for them,
Yeah.
For someone who's listening who's experienced trauma or loves someone who has, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know, because often we're stuck in patterns in response to the trauma that seem to us or to others as like stupid, or why are you doing that thing again, or why are you avoiding that thing, right? And it's so we can be critical, self-critical and judgmental or otherwise. And what I think is important to note is that the response to the trauma is the wisest thing that the person has capacity to do at the time. So there are other options available to them, but they are probably worse than the thing that they are doing. Does that make sense? So there's that one level, but then it's how do we get beyond that? It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm doing this thing in reaction to my trauma, or I'm witnessing somebody and it's painful because I feel like they're hurting themselves, in the process. And I think coming from the place of unconditional positive regard, meaning, and I'm speaking here specifically when it's someone we're witnessing in the trauma, if we can see them from their whole possibility, from the healed, beautiful version of themselves, if we can take all the moments where we've seen them in their glory, and we hold that image of like, this is the version of you I know is the whole healed, possible, glorious self, and we speak to them from that place of hope
Oh, I love that. That was kind of the next question. What gives you hope? But you're kind of speaking towards it. We have to help people with their dogs feel in love with the dog they have instead of the dog they think is disappointing them, and they think they're
Yeah.
disappointing them on purpose. And of course, it's a dog,
Right.
right? And then when
Right.
somebody who's had so much trauma that they haven't been able to process yet, or working through it, and then like, well, you should be farther along, or you should be better, or what's wrong
Yeah.
with you, instead of what's happened to you. That was the biggest
Yeah.
shift in thinking. I had to learn about it, and not to use excuses, because people can get pretty stuck and make a choice to stay stuck, and that's just
Totally.
as difficult. But to have some grace for that, and
Yes.
just exactly what you're saying. So, what are some common misconceptions about trauma that you wish would go away?
Some common. I think it's more along the same theme that people are choosing their trauma, or they're
Huh.
choosing their reaction, to their trauma. So when we think about, often when people are stuck in cycles of trauma, in the somatic world, we talk a lot about how we are drawn to recreating patterns of our trauma in hopes of a different outcome.
Oh yes, I've seen that in real. Seen that happen. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's sort of, and it's so, we can be so self-judgmental of it. We can, of course, especially if it's someone we love and they're recreating painful patterns, we're judgmental of them because we feel protective.
Yeah.
But it's not so again, I think insight into that, like someone simply, oh, well, you're recreating your trauma. Okay. Right. Thanks. It's not right. Not helpful. It's more there are somatic ways of supporting that. And one of them is through, equine work, in that when we look at a lot of, so if the trauma involved, relational interaction, it was probably involved nonverbal gestures in there. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, someone intruding my space, but I couldn't push away. Maybe I froze, as a woman, or any version of that. And when we think about groundwork with the horse, all of our earliest relational gestures are coming up in that groundwork, right? So we have
Oh
yield,
yeah.
we have push, we have reach and grasp of the rope, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
release. And so, especially when there's a complex trauma history, those gestures are going to be very inhibited. So, what does that mean? That means that when, for example, we ask the horse to back up and we use a push gesture, we're going to have what is, typically called a bad horse, or a pushy horse, or right,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, all they're reading, the horse is reading, because they're masters of this, is that this person actually isn't fluid and congruent in this gesture,
Yeah, they're not
and
being clear.
they're not being clear, or they're overcompensating, and
Yes.
just and right, and then that feels really bad and unclear to the horse, because all of a sudden you were this way, and then you were this aggressive shouting like way, and this feels bad, right? So they just either push or pull,
Yeah.
right? And so then we blame the horse in their training, and we send them to a trainer to fix this like thing, right? And this happens on the groundwork level, but then all the way up through like just riding and simply
Mm-hmm.
like opening a rein, right? Sort of version. And so what I think is fascinating, and I've done a lot of work with developmental gestures and horses and people with complex trauma, is that if we work, and especially if we work at liberty with a horse in a round pen, for example, and we work on some of these gestures, the horse will tell us immediately, without getting into the trauma story whatsoever, where the gestures aren't working, right? Where
Okay.
there's either overcompensation and the horse starts just running around because that feels awful, or they won't move at all, sort of thing. And so then when we slow down with the person at that point, where this horse who knows, knows on a subtle level all these movements and will respond to them with somebody else, but with you, they're not. There's something happening in the body. And when we really slow down that gesture, with support and scaffolding and regulation, to go back to, what we find is, for example, in the push, there's going to be a racing heart, and you're going to get really sweaty when you slow it down, right? And it's like maybe you feel like you're going to, and then images come and processing comes, right? But if you can bring your body back into the here and now, so what's happening is kind of back to the paper, right? What's happening is in these moments of threat, the predictive response is going wild of like, this is all bad. I'm going to push you away and something bad's going to happen. It's not happening on a conscious level to us, but it's happening on this subtle level within the body. So we're rushing through it or we're backing off or we're doing whatever because there's not safety. And so in the here and now, if we use fluidity in the gesture with support and scaffolding to actually let the body know, oh, you can push and you can have a great outcome. It can be totally safe. So we build that safety up. And then the horse just yields and goes, right? And then it's sort of, and the person is like, oh, right? And then we repeat that and the body is brought into the here and now, right? So going back to our discussion of the traumatized person, that's the version of their response is trying to adapt to a history and figure out what is my way to the here and now. And our animal body says our way to the here and now is resolving the cougar that came into the village and getting it out in whatever way. Like that the cougar keeps coming and that you need to figure out, since the cougar's coming anyway, how this time not to let it overtake you. And that's the brain's kind of limbic system's answer to the problem. And what we're trying to support is saying, yes, there are cougars all around, right? And your brain thinks this one is coming in this way and this is the way to solve it. But how do we help your brain and body know that you can actually look around to this world as it is right now and there isn't a cougar in this moment, and you can learn how to assess if there's actually a cougar here.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really true. Well, this has been delightful. A few more questions about how to learn more about you.
Sure.
Where can people learn more about your work?
Sure. So my website is Equine Somatic Pathways, and there's a course there for self-development for those who are just interested in a deep somatic relational dive for themselves and their horse. And then there's a path for practitioners, equine professionals, and therapists to learn more. So all of that information is there, and my social media links are up there.
Okay. Tell us about your book.
Oh, sure. So wrote a children's book. And the impetus behind that was I was finding parts work so helpful. And we've kind of brought in a little pieces of parts work today. But parts work hasn't been huge with children. It's more of a therapy modality that's been used with adults. And I was seeing, as I worked with children and horses, how children right away got the idea of like, oh, I have this worry part that like takes over. And then my worry part is really good friends with my angry part. And when
I'm trying to understand parts work, but now it's becoming a little more clear. Okay.
There you go. So we have these different parts of ourselves that are looking out for us, but we usually don't understand when we're blended with them. They just kind of take over. So the worry part especially for a child, the worry part just takes over and we're in our worry and we're speaking to worry. And then if mom and dad are not going along with worry, then usually angry part comes in as backup to say like, no, this can't happen, right? And then when that doesn't work out, sad part kind of steps forward and, feels all of the things. But there's this idea in parts work that we have, if we can be in our curious self, and we can see these different parts of ourselves that have super skills, but also limitations. And instead of just blindly operating from them, we can be friends with them. We can befriend them and strategize together. We have a much better time of things, an easier time of things. And in parenting, it's also easier to see these parts of our children as reacting and not as you're bad, but it's like, oh, your worry part is being really obnoxious today. Let's talk with that part.
I'm going to definitely get that book. I mean, with my grandchildren, I think it would be any child, but I think that sounds really useful. I'm gonna get that. Oh, that's pretty
Oh,
cool.
good.
And we can
Good.
find that like
You can find
everywhere.
that on Amazon. Yeah, I love your heart and all your feeling parts, and it's available on Amazon.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I will definitely put all your links in the show notes and things like that. This has been absolutely wonderful. Such a deep discussion, and I learned a lot. And probably, I think everyone listening learned something and learned that they can learn more. I mean, I hope this sparks curiosity in people so that they can learn more about how all these things are connected, even in their relationships with the horses and the people around them. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
that's great. But thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed chatting with you.